life begins to change the moment a person realizes that their inner world is not an empty space, but a powerful universe waiting to be awakened. Every human being carries within them a reservoir of strength that they often underestimate, and this hidden power stays dormant until something forces them to rise. Carl Jung believed that the greatest danger in life is not failure, fear, or pain. The greatest danger is wanting nothing, expecting nothing, and becoming numb to the possibilities that exist within the human spirit. When a person wants nothing, they stop moving forward. They stop dreaming. They stop challenging themselves. And slowly, they surrender their life to the quiet despair of routine and stagnation. But the truth is that every individual has the ability to rise again, no matter how deep the darkness seems. The very fact that you are still breathing means the universe has not finished with you yet. You are not here to simply survive. You are here to transform. Transformation begins the moment you decide to explore who you really are beneath the doubts and expectations placed upon you. Jung taught that a person's true calling emerges from the depths of their soul, not from the noise of society. The world may try to shape you into something small, but the deeper voice within you will always call you toward something greater. When you ignore that voice, you feel restless, you feel empty, you feel disconnected. But when you listen, you begin to sense your real path unfolding. This path does not require external approval because it does not belong to anyone else. It belongs to you alone. The moment you choose to listen to your inner voice is the moment your life regains its direction and meaning. Every challenge you have survived has shaped you into someone stronger than you realize. Pain is not a punishment, it is a sharpening tool. Struggle is not a sign of weakness, it is the birthplace of courage. Jung believed that people must confront their own shadows, the parts of themselves they fear or deny, because these hidden pieces contain the very power they need to grow. When you face your doubts, you become confident. When you face your fears, you become brave. When you face your failures, you become wise. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your unpolished potential waiting to become light. The most inspiring truth is that your life can change at any moment. Once you decide you are done living small, you do not need permission to dream again. You do not need a perfect plan to begin. You simply need the courage to take one honest step forward. That single step expands your mind. It strengthens your character. It reminds you that you are capable of far more than you have ever imagined. The moment you take that step, the universe responds, because boldness has a power of its own. New opportunities appear. New people enter your life. New strength rises within you. Life rewards movement. Life rewards courage. Life rewards desire. You do not need to be perfect to begin. You only need to be willing. You only need to believe that change is possible. Once you commit to becoming the highest version of yourself, life begins to open in ways you could never have predicted. New strength appears. New clarity appears. New opportunities appear. You begin to understand that everything you once thought was breaking you was actually shaping you. And slowly, you rise into the person you were always meant to be. Remember one truth. You are not here to live a small story. You are here to awaken your inner fire and transform your life from the inside out. You are here to want something so deeply that it ignites your soul. When you want nothing, you lose your direction. But when you want transformation, you become unstoppable. Your journey starts now. Your power begins now. Your new life begins the moment you decide it is time to rise. Carl Jung warned that one of the most terrifying dangers a human being can face is the slow and silent condition of wanting nothing. He believed that when a person reaches the point where they no longer desire growth, improvement, love, purpose, or challenge, the psyche begins to collapse from the inside. This collapse does not announce itself loudly. It does not arrive with a dramatic breakdown or a sudden explosion of emotion. Instead, it creeps into the mind quietly, like a cold fog rolling across the inner landscape, dimming the brightness of everything a person once cared about. Jung observed that desire is not a luxury. Desire is the fuel of the human spirit. It is the fire that pushes a person to evolve, to face the unknown, to rise above fear, and to transform their life. When this fire goes out, life becomes a dull repetition of empty days. A person begins to drift through routines without passion. They wake up without excitement. They speak without conviction. They move through the world like a shadow of who they once were. Jung said that this state is more dangerous than fear or failure, because fear can be conquered, and failure can be corrected. But the absence of desire leaves no strength to fight, and no direction to move toward. When someone wants nothing, they stop imagining what could be. They stop dreaming about what is possible. They stop challenging themselves. They stop growing. They stop becoming. And slowly, the meaning of life slips away from them. Jung believed that wanting nothing is not caused by laziness. It is caused by disconnection. A person becomes disconnected from their own inner voice, from their passions, from their intuition, from their purpose, and from the deeper layers of the psyche where meaning is born. When this connection weakens, the outer world begins to feel empty and heavy. The person may look normal on the outside. They may still smile. They may still work. They may still talk to others. But inside, they feel a quiet heaviness that follows them everywhere. Jung explained that this heaviness is a symptom of a deeper psychological starvation. The person is not receiving the nourishment of desire, meaning, or authentic inner direction. Instead, they feel as if something essential has faded or disappeared. They begin to feel lost even in familiar places. They begin to feel tired even after resting. They begin to feel uninterested even in the things that once excited them. This is the psychological desert that Jung feared the most. He believed that this state often emerges when a person suppresses their true desires, when someone spends too much time trying to be who others expect them to be. They begin to lose touch with who they truly are. They silence their own dreams to avoid judgment. They hide their ambitions to avoid failure. They shrink their voice to avoid conflict. And slowly, their inner world becomes smaller and smaller. Eventually, they stop wanting anything at all. Jung taught that this suppression creates a psychological vacuum. A vacuum does not stay empty. It fills itself with anxiety, boredom, confusion, and emotional numbness. The person begins to feel restless without understanding why. They feel stuck without knowing what they want. They feel empty without knowing what is missing. Jung said that the unconscious mind sends these signals as a cry for help. It is the deeper self trying to wake the person up. It is the inner voice trying to remind them that they were born to want something. They were born to seek meaning. They were born to pursue a path that belongs only to them. Jung believed that desire is not optional. It is essential. It is a psychological compass. When a person loses desire, they lose direction. When they lose direction, they lose purpose. When they lose purpose, they lose themselves. And this is why Jung considered wanting nothing to be the most terrifying danger of all. Because a person who wants nothing becomes vulnerable to despair. Carl Jung believed that the true turning point in any person's life begins the moment they allow themselves to want something again. He taught that even a small desire can awaken the psyche from emotional numbness, because desire carries the energy of movement and the promise of transformation. Jung explained that wanting something meaningful is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of life returning to the soul. It is evidence that the inner fire has not died, even if it feels hidden beneath layers of fear, disappointment, or exhaustion. He believed that no human being is ever truly defeated unless they surrender their desire to grow. The moment you begin to want something is the moment you begin to rise. It is the moment you begin to reclaim strength that you thought was lost. It is the moment you begin to reconnect with the deeper self that holds your purpose, your intuition, and your potential. Jung said that every person carries a spark inside them that can never be extinguished. This spark may dim, but it never disappears. It can be reignited when you listen to the quiet inner voice that tells you that you are capable of more than your current circumstances. This voice is not fantasy or imagination. It is the authentic self calling you back to your path. It is the inner guide that encourages you to move toward a life that awakens your spirit instead of draining it. When you respond to this call, even with a small step, the psyche begins to shift. You start to feel direction returning. You begin to feel energy where there was emptiness. You begin to feel hope where there was confusion. Jung believed that this moment marks the beginning of psychological rebirth. He taught that personal growth does not happen suddenly. It grows in small moments of honesty and courage. It grows when you choose truth over avoidance and movement over stagnation. Jung said that the greatest breakthroughs in life come from the willingness to act even when you feel uncertain. You do not need full confidence to begin. You only need willingness. Willingness is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. When you take even one step forward, your inner world begins to reorganize itself around your new direction. You start to discover strength you thought you had lost. You begin to reconnect with forgotten passions. You begin to feel a sense of identity returning after a long period of emotional silence. Jung believed that this process is one of the most courageous acts a human being can achieve, because it requires you to confront your fears instead of running from them. It requires you to meet your doubts with determination. It requires you to believe in the possibility of a better version of yourself. This belief becomes the foundation of transformation. Once you believe change is possible, the psyche opens the path for it. Once you believe you are worthy of more, you begin to attract more. Once you believe you can rise, your entire mindset shifts toward growth instead of surrender. Jung said that this inner shift is the true beginning of power. When you begin to move toward what you truly want, you step out of the shadows that once held you back, and you begin to see that your limits were never as permanent as you believed. Jung taught that the psyche responds to movement with strength and responds to stagnation with weakness. The moment you choose movement, even in small ways, you awaken energies within yourself that you forgot existed. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to feel excitement in places where you once felt resistance. Jung believed that this shift happens because the unconscious mind supports any action that leads toward authenticity. When you take steps that reflect your true desires, you align your conscious mind with your deeper inner truth. This alignment produces clarity, confidence, and purpose. Carl Jung believed that the greatest breakthroughs in life begin when a person finally chooses to face the truth they have been avoiding, because the truth holds the power to free the mind from the illusions that keep it trapped in fear and stagnation. He taught that every individual carries two selves within them, the self that conforms to expectations and the self that whispers the deeper truth of who they are meant to become. And he believed that the suffering people experience in silence often comes from the conflict between these two selves. When you ignore your deeper self, you begin to feel disconnected from your own life. You move through your days without passion. You feel trapped in routines that do not reflect your true nature. Jung explained that this disconnection creates anxiety, confusion, and inner conflict because the psyche cannot tolerate living a life that contradicts its own essence. He believed that the moment you choose honesty with yourself, the moment you admit what you truly feel and what you truly want, you begin to release the emotional weight that has been holding you down. Honesty becomes a form of liberation. It frees you from pretending to be someone you are not. It frees you from carrying desires you never chose. It frees you from trying to meet expectations that do not belong to you. Jung taught that the most powerful transformation begins the moment a person says the truth out loud, even if that truth scares them. The psyche responds to authenticity with strength, because truth aligns the conscious and unconscious mind. This alignment gives you clarity, energy, and purpose that cannot be found through denial or avoidance. Jung believed that facing your truth requires courage, but it is the only path to real growth, because strength is not built by hiding from your inner world, but by confronting it with honesty. He explained that every fear you avoid grows stronger, and every fear you confront grows weaker. When you decide to face your fears, you discover that many of them were illusions created by past wounds or imagined limitations. Jung believed that fear protects the ego but destroys the soul. The ego wants safety, comfort, and predictability, but the soul wants growth, meaning, and transformation. When you choose the path of the soul, you choose a life driven by purpose instead of fear. You choose a life where discomfort becomes a sign of growth rather than a signal to retreat. Jung taught that the deeper self does not communicate through loud commands, but through subtle feelings, quiet intuitions, and persistent desires that refuse to disappear. These inner signals guide you toward the path meant for you. When you listen to them, you begin to feel alive again. You begin to feel connected to your life. You begin to feel that your existence matters. Jung believed that this reconnection is essential because a person who feels connected to themselves becomes unstoppable. They gain a clarity that cannot be broken by external opinions. They gain a strength that cannot be taken away by failure. They gain a purpose that cannot be replaced by fear. Jung said that, when a person begins to live in alignment with their inner truth, life begins to make sense in ways it never did before. Decisions become easier. Challenges become manageable. Obstacles become opportunities. The mind becomes clear. The heart becomes calm. The spirit becomes strong. He believed that this harmony within the psyche is the foundation of real happiness. It is not found in material success or external approval, but in living a life that expresses the truth of who you are. Jung taught that the world often pushes people to chase things that look impressive but feel empty. He believed that true fulfillment comes from pursuing what resonates deeply with your inner being. When you follow this path, you begin to attract experiences that match your inner growth. You begin to meet people who align with your purpose. Carl Jung believed that every person carries within them a hidden reservoir of strength that reveals itself only when life challenges them to grow beyond who they once were. And he taught that adversity is not a punishment, but a profound invitation to meet the deeper parts of yourself that you have not yet discovered. He explained that human beings often underestimate their own power because they judge themselves based on the past rather than the possibilities of the future. And he believed that the true measure of a person is not where they have been, but what they choose to become despite everything they have endured. Jung said that when life breaks your routine, disrupts your certainty, or shakes your sense of control, it is often preparing you for transformation you would not have chosen on your own. He believed that the psyche evolves through challenge, because challenge forces you to confront strengths that would otherwise remain dormant. It pushes you to tap into resilience you did not know you had. It encourages you to let go of old identities that no longer serve you. Jung taught that the most painful experiences often contain the seeds of the greatest growth, because suffering pushes you inward, and the inward journey reveals truths that the outer world cannot teach. When you walk through difficulty with courage, you come out stronger, wiser, and more connected to your true self. Jung believed that one of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that hardship means they are failing, when in reality hardship often means they are evolving. He explained that the psyche naturally resists change, because change threatens the familiar identity of the ego, and the ego prefers safety over transformation. But he taught that the deeper self does not grow in safety. It grows in challenge, uncertainty, and discomfort. Jung said that every moment of struggle is an opportunity to shed an old layer of yourself and step into a more powerful version of who you are meant to be. When you embrace this understanding, your relationship with adversity changes. You stop seeing challenges as barriers. You begin to see them as teachers. You begin to see them as signals that your life is expanding. You begin to recognize that strength is not something you find. It is something you build through the choices you make when life tests your spirit. Jung believed that the most powerful individuals are not those who avoid suffering, but those who learn from it, integrate it, and rise above it with deeper wisdom. He taught that when you stop resisting challenge and begin to accept it as part of your personal evolution, the fear that once controlled you begins to fade. You start to develop emotional resilience. You begin to trust in your ability to handle uncertainty. You learn to rely on your inner wisdom instead of external validation. Jung believed that this shift marks the transition from living a reactive life to living a conscious life. A reactive life is controlled by fear, pressure, and circumstances. A conscious life is guided by intention, purpose, and inner strength. When you live consciously, you stop letting difficulty define you. Instead, you allow difficulty to refine you. Jung taught that every struggle carries meaning, and when you discover that meaning, you transform suffering into strength. You turn pain into clarity. You turn doubt into determination. You turn darkness into depth. And once you experience this transformation, you begin to understand that the human spirit is capable of far more than it believes. You realize that nothing outside you can truly defeat you unless you surrender your inner power. Carl Jung believed that the ultimate goal of every human life is to become whole, and this wholeness is not achieved by avoiding darkness, but by integrating it, understanding it, and transforming it into strength. Because true growth begins when a person stops running from their inner shadows and starts learning from them. He taught that every fear, every insecurity, and every wound contains valuable wisdom that guides you toward the person you were meant to become. Jung said that the parts of yourself you reject are often the very parts that hold your greatest power, and when you deny them, you cut yourself off from the energy you need to rise. He believed that wholeness is not perfection. Wholeness is self-acceptance. It is the ability to look at every part of yourself with honesty, compassion, and courage. When you do this, you free yourself from shame. You free yourself from guilt. You free yourself from the inner conflicts that drain your energy and steal your purpose. Jung taught that a person becomes unstoppable when they integrate their strengths and weaknesses, their light and darkness, their past and future into one unified self. Because this integration creates a stability that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. It allows you to walk through life with confidence, clarity, and inner peace. He believed that the person who knows themselves deeply becomes a force of nature, capable of shaping their destiny instead of being shaped by fear. Jung explained that inner transformation is not a single moment. It is a continuous process. It is a lifelong journey of becoming more aware, more courageous, and more authentic. He believed that the greatest gift a person can give themselves is the commitment to grow, no matter how many times life challenges them or how many times they fall. Every fall is an invitation to rise stronger. Every setback is a call to refine your path. Every disappointment is a lesson that prepares you for something greater. Jung taught that there is no wasted experience in the life of a conscious person. Everything contributes to the development of the soul. When you begin to see life this way, you stop fearing difficulty and start trusting the process of your own evolution. You begin to feel gratitude for the challenges that shaped you. You begin to feel proud of the strength that carried you. You begin to feel connected to a deeper purpose that guides you through every chapter of your life. Jung believed that this sense of purpose is the true antidote to the danger of wanting nothing, because purpose gives you direction, desire, and fire. It gives you the reason to wake up each day with determination and hope. He taught that the most powerful moment in any life is the moment a person decides to live intentionally. When you choose to stop drifting, when you choose to stop doubting, when you choose to stop waiting for the perfect moment, when you choose to begin now. Jung believed that the moment you reclaim your desire, you reclaim your life. You step out of the emptiness that once drained you. You rise from the numbness that once held you. You awaken the strength that was always within you. And once this awakening begins, nothing can pull you back into the darkness of wanting nothing again. You become a person with direction, with purpose, and with courage. You become someone who inspires others simply by being authentic. You become someone who builds a life aligned with meaning instead of fear. Jung believed that this transformation is available to anyone who chooses it. And when you choose it, you no longer live as a shadow of yourself. You live as the full expression of who you are meant to be. You live with intention. You live with clarity. You live with purpose. And that is the path that protects you from the most terrifying danger Jung warned of, the danger of wanting nothing. Because now you want something powerful. You want a life that is truly yours.